How many times can one man leave you breathless? When you get on his bad side, your number is up. Timothy Dalton is James Bond 007. License to Kill.
Hi, and welcome to Jack at the Movies. I'm your host, Jack Heim, and today we're continuing our look into the world of James Bond with Timothy Dalton's final film as Agent 007, License to Kill. The plot of the film is after helping his friend and former CIA agent, Felix Leiter, who's now part of who has left the Central Intelligence Agency and has now become a DEA agent, has taken down a man named Fran Sanchez, played by Robert Davi. And during it, he has bribed a fellow DEA agent, I don't know who played him, but another agent, and during it he has escaped. The film is a bit of taking influence from what was popular at the time. Again, this was taking influence from Miami Vice, which was coming to an end in the next year of 1989. The film had a release date of July of 1989. This would be the last film that Robert Brown played M, the final film that Timothy Dalton would play Bond, the final film in the deal between Richard Maybaum and Michael G. Wilson of writing, the final film directed by John Glenn, the final film to have Maurice Bender do the title sequence, and would be also the last film that Albert R. Cubby Broccoli, who had worked from 1962's Dr. No all the way till 1989's License to Kill as one of the producers and actually being on shooting for the film. Originally, the plot was going to involve a little bit of the drug smuggling aspect that was shown in The Living Daylights in the next film, License to Kill, where Bond would team up with General Pushkin to take on a drug person in China, which would involve still the late of the Anglo-Soviet cooperation, which was talked about in the previous film, not the previous film, The Living Daylights, but in The Spy Who Loved Me, and will continue until A View to a Kill. But John Rhys Davies did not sign on for the next film. He was originally asked, but he decided not to, and the idea was scrapped, and they couldn't do it. Davies went on to return to the Indiana Jones films and play Saw opposite Harrison Ford and the original James Bond, Sean Connery. But they decided to take influence again from Fleming for the film, being that Felix Leiter being attacked by a great white shark and being hurt, and taking influence from the Live and Let Die novel. This would be one of the last films to actually take influence from a Fleming book, but it would not be the last. They would keep using some elements of Fleming, but this film shows that Bond is a little bit darker. They were trying to get on the little bit of the Dirty Harry or different type of action movie of a lone hero going against the villain. So they took influence from Kurosawa's film Yojimbo, which then became the Sergio Leone films, the Dollar Trilogy, and also would influence a little bit of the Magnificent Seven, a little bit of Dirty Harry, a bit, but this film is a great movie. I recommend that you go watch it. It is on Max, which was formerly HBO Max. You can watch some of the earlier James Bond films I've talked about, from Rush with Love, Goldfinger, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, For Your Eyes Only. I think a couple other films, including even later films that we'll talk about. But I do recommend that you go watch this film, and we'll come back, and you'll hear my thoughts. So I recommend that you go watch it on Max or on original DVD. We're going to talk about one of my favorite action sequences, the truck chase sequence, which is the final big action sequence for Bond. And I didn't mention this in the Die Hard videos, but Michael Kamen, who did the score for Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, did the score for License to Kill. So this is a little bit of a continuation of what we did with Die Hard, and he had done it, and he was so excited to do this film, and Kamen would continue doing scores up until its death in 2003. So this film is the only time that he did the James Bond film. So here we go with my look at the License to Kill truck chase sequence. Let's roll it. This whole sequence was shot in Rumarosa, Mexico, doubling for the damn, I forgot the fake fictional country it's supposed to be in, but it was supposed to be in Colombia or Mexico a bit, but then they decided to make it They actually used about a total of 10 to 12 Kenworth trucks, and this was one of the specially built ones, which had a mechanism that could allow it to do a wheelie. And Timothy Dalton did some of his own stunts for the film in the end. And Cubby Brock actually got scared in the pre-credit sequence in the movie. Oh dear. That was a nice, good idea that those guys jumped, because they would have been barbecued. Carrie Lowell, who would play part of Law & Order, plays our Bond girl, Pam Bouvier, a former CIA agent. She would actually return to play Pam in the video game 007 Legends, which I did not mention in the Moonraker video or in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. You could play as Bond with some of the characters, and Carrie Lowell actually returned to play Pam for this film. This is one of my favorite scores of Kamen. For this shot, when Bond activates the cruise control, they actually put a stunt driver. So I'm actually going to demonstrate. This is me in front of the camera. But behind me, right here, this is where the driver would have been. But they put he was behind where Dalton was sitting, so he could drive the truck, and then he could drive and pretend he's driving in front. It's called a blind driving type of thing. It's a thing that's a term in the movie business, and it's a really good way how to do it with the actor. Go get him, James. I watch License to Kill every year, and when I'm having a bad day or something, I just turn it on, and it's a great movie. Whoa! And what is supposed to be the gasoline in there, it's a mix of a gasoline and cocaine, so that's how Sanchez is bringing the cocaine into America. But gasoline, if you mix fire with it, it's fire. They had a burning sensation. Horrible way today. But for the flying stuff, Corky Fornoff, who had doubled for Roger in one of the previous videos I did on Martin Pussy, he actually doubled for her and actually worked on this film for some of the flying sequences, including even doubling as one of the pilots for flying and also Bond when he steals the plane with the $5 million. But for this part, when Sanchez, played by Robert Davi, fires that Stinger missile. It was a fake Stinger done with help from John Richardson. But what happened was, is when that Stinger went and hit the back end of the plane, it was supposed to just be on a wire, go that way, and then go down. It went on the wire, went that way, and then fired longer and actually hit a telephone pole. A telephone phone operator who was working there and got hit. He actually got hurt. And this is the first time, this is the reason why they say we have professionals. Don't do this at home. Whoa! Uh-oh, he just cut the brake lines. I call that a bad move on Sanchez. And they actually used a couple of those planes for this shot, including even the one where they could actually tear the wings off. Whoa. Mano time. In the game, you can actually do that, mano against Sanchez, but he pulls his machete out early in the game, and instead of you fighting and him cutting the brake lines, he actually loses control of the truck and is the reason that you crash. But Vaughn is not in that classic suit, which is the one thing I wanted him to do. But before this film, Robert Davi had starred in Die Hard opposite Randall Bush, who plays one of the DEA agents in the film. And also had previously been in the Lethal Weapon movie, in the first Lethal Weapon film, and had done some scenes in this film, and also starred in Lethal Weapon 2. Aw, damn. Oh, God. I do recommend that you watch this because this is going to be a great moment, and I don't want to spoil it. So this is your official spoiler.
You could have had everything.
Don't you want to know why?
Happy trails. But when they were filming this explosion, they actually saw something, which is, if you have the DVD and the bonus features on both the DVD and the Ultimate Edition DVD, there was a pillar of fire that came out that had 3 hands. It looked like the devil was coming out. And that was like a hand of fate. I love that explosion. This explosion was handled also by Chris Carbold, John Richardson. Everybody who was working on this film did a great job. License to Kill is a great film, but it didn't do successful in 1989 because of all the films that were coming out. We had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, we had Lethal Weapon 2, we had Ghostbusters 2, we had Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier, we had Back to the Future Part 2, but the big movie that was the big dynamite of 1989 was Batman from 1989, which dominated the box office. And here in the United States, we did not get the reason why they called the film License to Kill. And it did good in other territories, but the film didn't do successful here in the United States. There was also problems that happened in pre-production on the next James Bond film, which we'll talk a bit, and it will be a video on it with no footage except you seeing me and then seeing a few pictures. But if you have not seen License to Kill, the footage here is not owned by me. It's owned by MGM, United Artists, Eon Productions, Dan Jack, and Amazon. So I do recommend that you go watch this on Max. And we'll be back again, but leaving the world of James Bond again, to the world of high-flying espionage, not espionage, but science fiction, and is a special tribute to my dad, my father, who has now turned 50 years old, with looking at his favorite Star Wars film, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. So, till next time, this has been Jack. I'm Jack of the Movie Son. So long for now, and like and subscribe to the channel.